Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our UETH weekly workshop. Today, we are diving into a fun topic. It's all about making our digital lives easier and more secure with blockchain. So our session today will be called Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Digital Identity, and we're super lucky to have a very inspirational figure here with us today, Sandy Carter from Unstoppable Domains. I'm Tina Dye, I'm your host. I've been exploring the crypto world for the last few years, most recently focused on venture capital, and before that, having come from a product management and strategy background. And today we're diving into the concept of digital identities with our guest, Sandy Carter, who is COO of Unstoppable Domains. So what's the big deal about digital identity? Imagine being able to use a really simple name like Tina.Crypto instead of a really long, complicated string of numbers for your digital wallet. And that's what Unstoppable Domains does. And you'll hear a lot more about how they are making crypto more user-friendly and more secure for your digital identity. So we're going to start with Sandy and a quick intro about her background. And she will share a presentation afterwards about the case for digital identity, how it can be used, and show everyone here how to grab their own unstoppable domain. Before we get into the discussion, a quick few reminders. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the general channel of our Discord. We'll get to them later and make sure that you get an answer asynchronously. And please stay active in our Discord to keep your UETH chapter active. And of course, with all of these sessions that we do here at the University of Ethereum, we are aiming to inspire our community with real-world use cases, and we want you all to learn by doing. So reflect on how you can contribute to the world of decentralization with digital identity and beyond with some of the lessons that you'll learn here tonight. So with that, let's give a warm welcome to Sandy. I'm going to bring her on stage. Sandy, it's so great to have you here.
It's great to be here. I can't believe I'm on University of Ethereum. How cool is that?
Yeah, I love that you made your schedule work for being here. You've had such an amazing career, and we'd love to hear more about your journey. So previously, you were a general manager at IBM, you were a vice president at AWS, and now you're COO of Unstoppable Domains. So help us understand what you have done and how you navigated your career and what brought you into crypto.
Yeah, well, it's been a fabulous career. So I hope everybody out there is loving what they're doing, because I absolutely love what I do. I did start with IBM. I'll start there, I guess, in my career. And at IBM, I had the pleasure of doing artificial intelligence. And Tina, this was before we had Gen AI, so it was really cool. I got to work with Watson and Jeopardy. If you remember, Watson played Jeopardy as one of the first kind of AI versus humans. Super cool. Got to do a cookbook that was created by Watson. Some really cool, innovative things to showcase the business value. I then moved over to Amazon Web Services when the cloud was just taking off. So did a lot to establish the enterprise and cloud, but also continued on that AI journey and started then to get my hands dirty with blockchain. I was focused on a lot of regulated industry customers, and it was really fascinating that many of them were using blockchain because of the security, the programmability of it. And it just took me down the rabbit hole and falling in love with the blockchain technology. And then I made the move over to Unstoppable, a startup, which I think is really cool. Our mission is to get a digital identity into the hands of every person around the globe. So I think that little, major project and then side projects on blockchain at Amazon Web Services really led me to where I am today. And then part of what I feel my mission is too, Tina, is I also I founded a group called Unstoppable Women of Web3 and AI. That's also important because I think as we're all here We're all big fans of Web3 and blockchain and the power that it has. The power goes up magnitude if we have diverse teams. That means more than just men and women, but definitely is inclusive of women.
I love that so much. And I love that you somehow managed to navigate all these crazy trends before they got huge. And AI is so relevant now, especially in the world of crypto. But we're going to hear a lot more about digital identity. But before digital identity as a category, would love to sort of understand the origin story behind Unstoppable Domains. And you touched a bit on the mission there, but we'd love to hear sort of how it first got started and how that feeds into the mission.
Yeah, so the origin story I think is really interesting because if you go back to the internet, when the internet first came out, people had to type in numbers to get to a website, 152.49. And it was very non-human readable. Now you can just type in, UETH, or you can type in Amazon.com, or you can type in UnstoppableDomains.com. And that made everything so much easier. And the same concept came out with Unstoppable Domains. Our very first use case was being able to use your digital identity through a domain like Sandy.X or Sandy.NFT to transact in crypto. So instead of typing in that long 21 character and digit based string that no one can remember, you can just type in your human readable form, Sandy.NFT, Sandy.X. And that's really how it started. And it's so fascinating. You read about companies and what they start with is typically the real driver for a long period of time. And in fact, even today, we still have about 30,000 of those resolutions that happen every week, over 1 million of those that happen every year, just simply taking someone's digital identity and translating it or resolving it into that wallet address. Now we can do so much more, but that's still the number one use case or utility that the digital identity has today.
And just so people have a sense for adoption, how many people would you say even have a digital identity?
So we are really excited. I'll give you some of the history. When I came into the company, we had 500,000 digital identities out there, 500,000. And now we're sitting at almost 4 million. Maybe when this goes live, we'll be at 4 million. I think that is tremendous progress, but we have a lot to go to because our mission is to get into the hands of everybody that digital identity. And there are, 8 billion people on the face of the planet. So we still have a long way to go, but we are the largest Web3 naming service out there. The other thing I think is really important is utility. I started, where did we come from was utility, like a utility-based use case for the digital identity. And we've continued to add utility as well. So for example, if you think about it, every new partner that we integrate with adds something new to the equation. When I started, we had 41 different integrations. We're now sitting at 1,000 partners and 865 integrations. So it really goes to show you, Tina, that we believe that utility is greater than hype because we keep focusing on providing value for those who grab that digital identity.
Well, amazing. Thank you for sharing all that. And thanks so much again for being here. We're going to dive now into your presentation on how Unstoppable Domains and just generally digital identities can redefine the experience in the world of crypto. But I'm super excited to hear so much more, and we'll have additional questions for you at the end of your presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tina. And thanks for everybody for joining us today, because this is, for me, so exciting, being able to have a digital identity and being able to use that on a daily basis. Like I said, we still have a long way to go. I often say we're in the dial-up phase, which means, a long way to go. If you think about the internet and the dial-up phase, everything was slow. The user interface wasn't there, but we will get there for sure. So I first want to talk a little bit about why that digital identity matters. Why am I so excited about it? One of the things that I think is really important is that Digital identity means that you own your data and you own your digital identity. And we'll talk a little bit more about what happens today and the vision we see for basically being real in the future as well. But let's just talk a little bit about what's been happening in the market. Digital identity is not directly tied to crypto, but it is indirectly tied because, as we just chatted about, that digital identity can resolve to your crypto wallet. So what you see here, which I think is really fascinating, is the path of the value of crypto. And then on the right, one of my all-time favorite charts that shows the performance of assets and asset classes over a long period of time, because that's what really matters, right? It's not the short term. I love to say exponential, baby, because you see this exponential growth going. And so if you look over time, you'll see those, just focus on that square, focus on the very top row. You'll see in orange, that's crypto. And you can see that crypto has remained a top performing asset class through multiple years, actually longer than any other major asset class. And that really helps to drive part of the need for a digital identity, making it easier to transact. But it also just goes to show the power of blockchain, of which the digital identity is built on, for its security, for its programmability, for its transparency as well. Blockchain is one. Crypto is one use case for blockchain, as well as a digital identity. So I think this is pretty phenomenal. I also like to tell people that, everything right now is accelerating fast. I keep thinking exponential, baby. If you think about all this tech that's coming at us, you've got Gen AI now coming at us. We still have spatial or metaverse. You've got digital identity, you've got blockchain, and everything seems to be just accelerating. In fact, I have 2 daughters, and one of my favorite books to read them is Alice in Wonderland. Probably thinking, what does that have to do with what we're talking about today? But if you think about it, in Alice in Wonderland, the queen tells Alice to stay in the same place. Now you have to run twice as fast. And that's what I feel we are undergoing right now. There's so much technology to learn, so many new business models to learn, that you guys need to kind of, get in there, buckle up, because we are right here and we're getting ready to hit a major exponential curve, not just in the blockchain space, but in spatial as well as artificial intelligence, which will play a role in the value and the power of that digital identity. So one of the big trends that I've been seeing in the market is tokenization of everything. Now, why is this so important? Well, first of all, if you think about tokenization is just taking the rights to an asset. It could be this pair of glasses I have right here, and tying that to a digital token that sits on the blockchain. Now, why is that so powerful? Well, once you do that, those digital rights now become transparent. They become, I think, more secure because of the blockchain. And everywhere we're now seeing that companies, businesses, countries are trying to tokenize what they do. I had the pleasure of going and speaking at Davos, or the World Economic Forum. And although tokenization wasn't a theme, AI was definitely the theme of the conference. As I went to all these industry sections, every industry session talked about tokenization. So I think if you had gone across all the industries, you would have added to the themes tokenization of everything. I'll just give you one. I'll talk about space because I always wanted to be an astronaut. I didn't tell Tina that, but that was my dream when I was a kid. I got to help with a team at AWS, a partner who brought rover to Mars. So that's kind of counts. I don't know. But if you think about tokenizing things, 2 interesting examples came up. One was space debris. So if in outer space, we have all this trash that's circulating out there, all that space debris, and nobody knows who owns the trash, who owns it. And why is that important? Well, you want to bring the trash down, so somebody's got to pay for cleaning it up. But then when it gets down to earth, that scrap, all of that trash, all that debris that's brought down, is very valuable. So ownership really matters. So one of the use cases that I heard about at Davos was, how do we tokenize space debris? How do we provide to that whatever goes up into space? How do we give it a digital token on the chain? And then as it goes up, we can now track it. We can track where it is. And when it comes back down, we know who pays for the cleanup, but we also know who gets the rewards as well. Let's do one more that I thought was really cool, talking about public and private partnership around the chain is satellites. So I was with a lot of countries and they don't have the privilege of owning their own satellite. Well, there's a lot of data that you can get and use if you have a satellite. And so what they're looking at now is tokenizing the ownership of a satellite. So you can do fractionalized ownership. Maybe the government in Congo can own a portion of a satellite as it's tokenized and then be able to identify that on chain so that you know who has the ownership. And everybody does because it's transparent as well. I love these examples because I do love space, but I know not everybody does. And a lot of people are like, we don't care about space. Do watch space because I do think it will impact our lives here, just as it always has done. But let me give you a couple other examples that may be closer to home for you because everybody wears clothes. I was also fascinated with a couple of startups that I met. One was around in Japan, tokenizing the brand for Burberry in Japan. So in Tokyo, for example, every mother wants to clothe her baby in Burberry, like a Burberry onesie. But how do you know if you bought that onesie from a secondary market that you're actually putting a real Burberry, that it's authentic, it's really the brand? Well, this particular startup is tokenizing the ownership of that outfit. So it starts obviously coming from Burberry and then goes through who else has owned it. I think a really cool example of tokenization. And then if you look at traceability, like a sustainability, the US just put new laws in about how if you're going to claim something is sustainable, like clothes, you have to do cradle to grave. So you have to show me where the cotton was picked from, how it went through manufacturing, how was it distributed, what happens to the clothes once, someone returns it. There's a whole bunch of sustainability elements in that as well. And so there are tons of companies now that are working on traceability through tokenizing that as well. Now, you probably are thinking, oh my God, she's gotten off of digital identity, but I really haven't. I'm going to talk to you about where are these tokens stored? How do you get access to them? It may not be as important in clothes, but let's think about real estate. So I actually met with a woman, she's based out of Tampa, who did the first deed that was an NFT that was tokenized. And that deed of ownership of a house that went to a company was actually done on an NFT. Now, why is that powerful? Well, first of all, she was telling the ease of use, like stacks of paper were gone away because you're signing at one time. And then also all the traceability again of who owned it, how long did they own it, was all now recorded too as a digital record, as a token. Okay, so now you've got the deed to your house. You've got the sustainability of your shirt. You know that it's authentic. So what do you do with it? So now it's all about ownership. Like, who owns this? And that's where Web3 really comes in. So if you think about Web 1, we really entered the internet sharing information, right? We had this information economy and people were pushing information out to us. And that was like the glory days, right? We got access to all this information. Then enter Web 2, and we call this the platform economy, because now you're ending up with not just information being pushed out you, but you're also generating information. You're participating in the whole information or data flow. The problem with this in Web 2 now is as you sign into platforms, because we are the platform economy, as you sign into that platform, now what you're seeing is that the data and the digital identity that goes with it is not yours. So let me give an example of, I have Twitter here, but we know it's now X. When X rebranded, somebody actually owned X as a Twitter handle, as their digital identity on Twitter, on X. It was taken away because they wanted to use X for their new brand. So that digital identity actually never belonged to that person. It was taken away by the platform. The same thing is true with Facebook. You hear about small businesses where they'll have a page up and all of a sudden it'll say, oh, your page violated something, we're taking it down. Businesses can actually go bankrupt or be down for business for quite a long time. Why is that? Because you don't own your data and you don't own your digital identity. And is that valuable? Oh, yes, absolutely. We know that Google and Meta or Facebook just made $100 billion, yep, that's a B, billion dollars off of your data. They sell that data to advertisers. They sell that data to retailers who want to sell you stuff. So now we enter Web3. It's called the ownership economy. And that's really important because now the ownership of the data and your digital identity belongs to you because of blockchain. Because the data is now not stored inside a platform, it's not owned by an entity, it's not owned by a company, it's not owned by a country. It's now on chain and you now own that data and now you control that. And that is such a powerful feeling. In fact, one of the things that I argued is that ownership of your data and ownership of your digital identity should actually be a human right, because I do think it's that important that you own information about yourself. So if we really think about this, how now would you use that data? And how are you going to use that digital identity if you own it? Now, you own it, so that makes it more special. It also puts more responsibility on you, right? Great responsibility comes with great ownership comes great responsibility. And so how would you use this in Web3? So now you've got this digital identity. It's going to travel with you throughout the internet. I have metaverse here, but I think it's really broader. I think it's going to travel with you throughout the internet. And again, it really differs in that you own that data and you own the digital identity. So now you have rights to it. I'll give you a quick story. I was in Brazil. I had an accident. I had to go to the hospital. I broke everything on my left side. You'll have to ask me more about the details later. But when I got to the hospital, they wanted to do emergency surgery because I was, fell 16 feet from the air. And so they wanted to do immediate surgery, but they couldn't. Why couldn't they? They could not get my health records fast enough. And even when I called to get my data, a lot of people said, oh, I can't give it to you. Even though it's data about me, I have to give it to the hospital or to the doctor or somebody else. And so, this really emphasizes what if in a Web3 world, I own that data. I had it inside of my digital identity and I could immediately presented that to the hospital, obviously protected to where, others don't have access to it, but ownership by me, used by me for my value and for what I think is the right thing to do. So this really talks about, that's one example, I guess I would say, is your digital identity representing who you are. So for example, that's your healthcare, right? Your health data, which I think is really important. But it also represents, perhaps where you work. We talked about real estate, and it really represents, your ownership in real estate or your leasing real estate. I will demonstrate to you here how it showcases your communities, your what and who you consider your tribe, your finances, because it links to crypto, your creations, which could be an NFT, your causes, which are so important to you. And so this digital identity becomes central to who you are, and it becomes really essential to what you do. And so I'm going to switch over now to the live demo just for a second so that you can see this working in real time as well. So let me just start out. Over here on the left-hand side, you see Sandy.NFT. So that is my digital identity. I do have a gamer name, Pink Mamba, which is associated with Sandy.NFT. So if I log in with Sandy.NFT, my gamer name comes with me. Interesting fact, I just wrote, I'm a contributor to Forbes. I just wrote an article about, your digital identity becoming your gamer tag. It is like my number one article. I've done it. I've written some really cool articles. People are very interested in using that digital identity as your name, as your gamer tag. Here you also see, this is an avatar. So this happens to be an avatar for Metropolis. One of the co-founders is a great woman that I know. So now if I log in with Sandy.NFT into that metaverse, my avatar also travels with me. So remember we talked about that Web3 digital identity traveling with you throughout the metaverse, throughout the internet. Here's how you see that I'm bringing everything with me. It's not tied to my platform. I don't have one ID for Google, one for Meta, one for Twitter or X. Here, I can log into thousands of decentralized finance, blockchain games, metaverses, wallets. I can do that all with the ownership I have in this digital identity. You also see here a reputation score. So this is done by Webacy. Because my digital identity is tying multiple wallets to it, that goes through and gives me a score of how safe I am in using smart contracts, using wallets. Have I been rugged or scammed before? That's really important data if I choose to share it when I log into an application. And then here you can see my portfolio. You can see my activity. You can see what I'm doing good on, what I'm losing money on. Again, I don't have to show that. So you don't have to know that I'm up on my little pudgy and I'm up on Ethereum. My lazy lion is pretty flat. But if I choose to, I can, because why? I own the data. I own the digital identity. And here is all of my activity. You can see I just bought ilove.austin, which is another digital identity that we have. And then I talked to you about owning your creations. So these are all creations that I have. They're different NFTs. But I can also really segregate and say, I've got a DAO that's really important to me. I can vote in this DAO right here. So I can see that and save that in my digital identity. I can look at tickets that I think are important to me. So this is a ticket to a Gary Vee event that gets me access to a selfie in front of the line. Or if I had gone to the Super Bowl, I could see that digital NFT in here to prove I went to the stadium. Now, why is that important? This is a funny story. The Super Bowl, which is the big football league here in the United States, was in Phoenix. And I actually got to go to a bunch of the side events for the Super Bowl. I didn't get to go to the Super Bowl. But the NFL was telling me that everybody at that game who tweeted, had everybody really been at the game that said they were at the game, the stadium would have been 5 times bigger. Here, if I had it in here, it would be a soul-bound token, meaning it belongs only to me. I can't transfer it out to prove I actually went to the game. Lots of power in that. I'll just show you one more thing here in the categories that I think is interesting, which is education. So here you see I taught 2 classes for Boss Beauties. I taught 1 to Crypto Tech. And so you can see now I'm also collecting these and certifications and even my diploma. So imagine this being your LinkedIn for Web3 and showcasing your diploma for a school as well. Lots of power here. We talked about communities, and you can already see that here are many communities that I belong to. These are badges from my community of my company that I've earned. And these are badges that I've earned for different communities. And now I'm actually able to communicate with them. So for example, if I went into my MetaRise badge, not only do I have this, now I can actually message every single person that's in this community. So now you have a way to do that group chat in an encrypted fashion and a segmented fashion too. Oh, and I could go on and on, I have to say, about this. You can tell I'm really passionate about it, but hopefully that gives you a good feel. Let me switch back to the presentation, though, and show you where this might go in the future. So I just showed you live today. We just announced a Sandy.Austin, so that .Austin tag. And what's really cool about that is that now you see in here, this digital identity that I have, I could have my car title. You know what? California is already doing that today. I could have my lease for my apartment or my deed for my house. We just talked about Florida already doing that today. Lisbon, Portugal already doing that today. I could have in here the fact that I own I have a membership in the Austin Chamber of Commerce. I can show that I went to South by Southwest. I have my ticket there that's soulbound. And then you can see here communities that I belong to. Hey, I went to South by. I supported small businesses. Or I flew through the airport. Maybe the city of Austin wants to know what my thoughts were about flying through their city itself. So this is very powerful today, but then you can see the direction that it's headed in, superpower in the future. And even imagine now you combine that digital identity with AI recommendations around it. So maybe because I went to South by Southwest, it might recommend other conferences for me. Or maybe because I had that accident in Brazil, maybe there are certain healthcare things that it recommends for me to do, maybe walking more or getting a badge for participating with sweat coins. It could also even recommend education classes. You can see lots of interesting things that could happen here because we're now looking at the future, like where this could be and how you could use or how you could leverage that digital identity. Let me show you one more. I get this question a lot. Oh, wow, Sandy, if I have to manage my own data, I can't have a DBA here, right? I can't hire my own database administrator. But maybe the future looks different, right? I was talking to my grandmother, and my grandmother was telling me that she couldn't imagine a world where every person had their own refrigerator. Wow, everyone has their own appliance. Like, how does it work? How will they keep it going? And of course, now everybody essentially has a refrigerator. But what if the same thing happened for data and the way that we store data? So here you can see I imagined what that might look like in the future. And you can see I have this up on a TV screen, signaling that you can maybe work it just as easily as you do with a remote. Maybe AI actually helps me optimize the passive income I make off my data, telling me that, there's a great coupon at this store, or if I go to this education class and I could get, free parking from the city of Austin on Saturday. So, I think all of these things are possible as we look at the future, and all of them are made possible because of the new technologies, not just blockchain, but digital identity and even AI doing some of this optimization. I think the future looks so interesting and so bright, again, built around Web3 and your digital identity. So now let me show you one more thing that I think is very relevant in today's world. So, in 2024, 49% of the global population will go through an election. And the number one thing that they're concerned about is, how do I know that the data I'm looking at is real? How do I know that it's validated? Well, here's where that convergence of AI and blockchain are so powerful. So I just showed an example here. This is the press release that announced I was coming over. And you can see I've got a blue check mark there. I guess it should be pink because that's my favorite color. And the way I got that blue check mark on that quote to show that I actually did say that is here you can see the signature going through both with a wallet and my digital identity, my Sandy.NFT. Blockchain is such a powerful way to provide that trust verification so that it wasn't created by a bot, wasn't really faked out either. Let me show you one more example that I think is really powerful. I don't know if you guys saw the Pope. He was in this beautiful Bauman puffer jacket. It went viral. 4 million people retweeted it everywhere. Turns out it's a deep fake. Somebody used that, one of the engines, Dolly or Midjourney, and created this picture. Well, now it makes people doubt any picture they see. Is it real, or did someone fake it? But here you can see I'm in the same puffer jacket. Of course, I didn't go viral with 4 million hits. But now I can actually, by signing this with my digital identity, I can do a check mark that anybody can validate that, yes, Sandy did actually wear a puffer jacket over a beautiful formal attire. And I really actually was in that picture. I think this is so powerful as CEOs and companies are looking at stopping all the deep fake news, whether it's a picture, a video, a quote, your voice, right? That this is a very powerful use of that digital identity as we move forward, and in particular this year in particular. So these are really taking off. Tina asked me right up front, how many domains do you have? We're almost at that 4 million mark. We've been growing very consistently. Again, it's that exponential baby that has really shown the power that a digital identity brings to the market. And the interesting thing is today there is utility, but I showed you the future where there's so much more utility. So I expect, again, this exponential curve just to continue up as we continue to talk about the value add. And I also believe very firmly that AI is going to push more demand for digital identities, Web3, as well as blockchain just overall. The two technologies just marry really well together in what they do and the needs that exist today in the marketplace as well. So I think as you look at this, hopefully you're now sitting there and you're thinking, man, I've got to go get my digital identity. I've got to go and grab that. One of the places you can do that is Unstoppable Domains, which is unstoppabledomains.com. And if you go out there, let me just show you a little bit about, what you might expect or what you might do as you're grabbing that domain. So this is the site itself, and it's really super easy. The first thing that you need to do is you need to decide, what do you want your digital identity to be? So I have Sandy and I have Sandy Carter. And I use both of those. One I use more for play and demos, like you saw today. That was Sandy. And Sandy Carter, I really reserve for a lot of my private material that I want to save. And then here, if you go to the website, you can see what other people are buying. So here you can see, someone bought IV NFT. They must have been hearing me talk about the hospital accident I had. But you can see some of the other, domains that people have bought for identities, for businesses, for themselves, for their kids. The youngest, we had a child that was 6 days old that was purchased by a prince out of Saudi Arabia, wanted to make sure that his son had his name, his special name, as his digital identity. So the next question you need to look at is, what extension do you want? So, if you associate, for example, with the Pudgy Penguins, you might want .pudgy. You may want something generic like wallet, or something that really reflects your love of blockchain. Most people, when they go in, will actually, what I do, I say, just go across the board. They'll buy Sandy and everything that's out there today. So I'm just going to type in here, Sandy Carter 111. And I'm going to search on it. And then what you're going to see come up is, here's Sandy Carter 111.x or crypto or .nft. The prices are very reasonable the longer you get. So your first name will be more expensive than your first plus your last name. But it's really simple to buy. You see here, I can add every one of these. If I just want to buy one, I just add it to my cart. I'll continue over to my cart, super easy. You can see here I can buy that AI art or that avatar if I want to do that here as well. And then if I look at some of these that I might want to look at or buy, let's take some of these out because we're going to focus on the Sandy Carter one that's here. Now I can go to checkout and I can either link my wallet so I can buy it with crypto. So if you have a MetaMask wallet or a Rainbow wallet or a Croesus wallet, you can do that. If not, let's say I'm still learning about this stuff, I can skip that altogether and I can pay with my credit card. I can pay with PayPal. Or again, I can go back over for crypto. And I think that's one of the things people have loved about Unstoppable is the fact that you can not be all in on Web3 yet. You can still be learning about wallets and exchanges and still grab that digital identity that I think could be, really important to you. And then of course, all you do is you hit PayPal or put your credit card in or link to your wallet and you're off to the races. The second step that I would say that you would do then is you would build out your profile page. And that page looks like this. So you would decide, do you want a gamer tag? Do you want an avatar? which wallets do you want to connect up? Because, things could go in here. If you don't want to show something, you can also block it out and not have it shown either. So I don't have to show you that I own a lazy lion, for instance. That's the fun part for me, is setting up the actual profile page, which is super easy to do as well. So let's switch back over to the presentation if we could, and I'll close this out by saying that I do believe that your digital identity is such an essential element. Owning that data, owning your digital identity, for me is a human right, because I don't want other people to own things about me. And for me, that's so personal. Which domain you pick or which ending you pick really depends on you. I think the important thing would just be to grab it and grab it right now. I did include my Twitter ID here because I know we're all crazy on crypto Twitter. And on the right, I also included a book that I just wrote. I had this at South by Southwest. I got to do a keynote in front of thousands of people, really about how and why the metaverse and Web3 and AI are really colliding together. The book sold out at South by Southwest, but if you want to know more about digital identity and about how everything fits together, including blockchain and Ethereum, this could be a great book for you to grab as well. Thank you guys so much for listening to the presentation. And hopefully now you're as passionate as I am about digital identity, and you're going to go run, not walk, but run to grab yours today.
Wow. I think you're such a fantastic teacher, Sandy. I just love all your stories. And I think it really helps contextualize how digital identity can really revolutionize an experience in Web3 and how important it really is for everyone to start claiming their own, right? Because I think at the end of the day, like you mentioned, like Web3 is about the ownership economy. And one of the most important things you have is your identity. And so this idea of like owning your footprint online and managing which parts are public versus private, and thinking through like future proofing what that identity looks like is really, really powerful. And you know what? We've hosted previously a few sessions on crypto and AI, and I could not agree with you more that this is one of the most just fascinating and like fast growing parts of both technologies. And there's so much richness between the two that will converge. So thank you for touching on that for how it would apply for digital identity.
And I should say, I love the leadership that University of Ethereum had, especially on that Venn diagram of where AI, I don't know if you have it, but it's where AI and blockchain really overlap and the synergies that exist. I use that everywhere because everybody wants to talk about AI, but they don't realize if you just use AI, you have these gaps. So bringing in blockchain really supplements everything so powerfully. So well done on doing that whole session. I know that you had lots of retweets from lots of famous people, but I just want to
including yourself, Sandy. So, all right. So we're going to move now towards more the Q&A parts of this workshop. We have some questions here for you, but if anyone else has any questions, please drop them in the Discord section of our chat. I know we're coming up on time, and so I will ask just a few questions, but how do you think about some of the biggest differences between a provider like ENS versus Unstoppable Domains?
So we love ENS and we love .eth. In fact, we love it so much that you can buy it off of your the Unstoppable site. And the reason we did that is that, we did find that when people go to get their digital identity, they want to do that clean sweep. They want to have Sandy.eth, Sandy.Crypto, Sandy.NFT. So we also use it there. We did make a few improvements, I will say. So one of the biggest complaints I hear about owning your .eth is you have to renew it. You don't have to renew your Unstoppable domain. You actually own it in support of that ownership economy. But what we did do is if you buy .eth off of our site, you can do an automatic renewal. So we remember for you, and then you can just have it automatic renewal. So almost like ownership, like we take care of that for you, which I think is really cool. The other thing I think that's cool is that you can now buy .eth without owning crypto. I had a lot of companies who were future-proofing their businesses by buying, .crypto, .nft, .polygon, but they couldn't get that .eth in there without crypto. And so now with the PayPal option, they can buy all of those at one time. So I think that's really good.
Brings up the question of domain squatting, right? And domain squatting is just like the practice of people purchasing and hope, like with the intent of flipping an internet domain with a trademark that belongs to someone else. So how do you handle domain squatting with Unstoppable Domains?
So we very early on, we believe in ownership, and we believe if you own the trademark to your brand that you should own it. So what we did at the very beginning is we protected every brand that we knew was trademarked. So, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Google, IBM, we just protected them all. So you could not squat on those names. Now, we were pretty fast on some, like OpenAI. We saw that one coming and we went ahead and protected it, even though originally it didn't exist. So we've tried our best to do that. We have missed a couple, but we really believe that ownership means ownership, which also means, following the trademark laws as well. So we have protected companies' domains, which they really love about us.
That's great. Yeah. I feel like on like .eth or ENS, that's definitely not been the case, right? So it's great that you're protecting some of the trademarks. One question that I have here is, we talked about namely like the naming service part of a Web3 identity stack, but in a fully developed form, your Web3 identity actually encompasses so many, information connections across like a myriad of decentralized protocols and open standards. And so I'm wondering if you can share just more broadly the Web3 identity stack market and sort of like the other components outside of naming services that might go into Web3 identity as a market.
We actually wanted to have available use cases for your digital identity that were very broad. And so we created the first application marketplace. So don't jump. No, I'm not talking about like OpenSea or Rarible or Magic Eden that has an NFT marketplace. This is truly an application marketplace. So you can see all those other elements of the stack. So here you see that with an unstoppable domain, you can use it with WebAssy, you can use it with Alchemy, you can use it with blockchain.com. So these are some of the featured apps. And you can actually go in here and say, wow, what can I do with that digital identity in a DeFi application? What could I do with it in a game or in a metaverse? Or even what can I do with it in a marketplace? What registrars are selling it? So maybe I want to go to another registrar. And, we support 175 wallets that are out there. So like if I click on this, you can see all the different wallets that we support too. And what that means is that that wallet, translates Sandy.NFT into crypto. But I can also then use it to log into DeFi apps. I can use it to log into Atari, to a whole set of games. I can do group messaging with it. So there is a whole set of use cases here. And I just got to this by typing in Unstoppable Marketplace. And this then again shows me all the application areas, the entire stack that I can use or leverage with my Unstoppable domain.
Thank you. I feel like this kind of is a great leeway into the next question, which is, what are some upcoming features or projects that you're really excited about?
Yeah, we have a couple that we're working on that we've already talked about, so I won't get in trouble. I would love to give you guys some alpha, but we've got to keep some things secret. But some of the alpha I can share is we are coming out with a wallet, and we're doing that not to compete with the wallets that we have. But, I showed you how a lot of people are buying their digital identity with PayPal and a credit card. They don't have a wallet today, nor do they want to go through and do all of the work for a wallet. But if you only buy it with a credit card, you can't create that really super cool profile. There's still a lot of things you can't do. So we decided to create something very simple, a simple wallet that anybody can take and use and leverage. I think that's going to be really exciting as we onboard more Web 2 customers. Like we want to go to where the Web 2 customers are, not have them come to us. So, for example, Tina, when we announced .Austin, most of the people who bought Sandy.Austin or that Austin were Web 2 users. So they didn't even know how to get a wallet. If you think about .Pudgy that we announced with Pudgy Penguins and Luca, because of the amazing work they're doing around those little stuffies, we had so many people come to buy a .Pudgy, Sandy.Pudgy, Tina.Pudgy, that they didn't know anything about crypto. Like they would call us and they would say, what is this crypto option? Like, we don't even know what that is, but we want a digital identity. And so we want to go to where the masses are, not have to have them come to us. So that wallet is something that's really important to us. We're also building out a marketplace that will also make it easier as well. So you can see what's out there and what's going on, which I think is very powerful. And then the final thing, in fact, we just made one announcement today. We're also going to be applying for ICANN certification application for GTLDs for these domains. So what does that mean? We just announced today a partnership with .Pudgy to apply for .Pudgy to be also registered as a DNS domain too. So that means that .Pudgy would have superpowers of Web3, ownership of all that data, being able to do the profile, doing encrypted messaging, but now also have some of the superpowers of Web 2, which is being able to be searchable in Google Chrome or Bing and being tagged. I think that really is the best of both worlds. And again, it's about bringing some of the power of Web 3 into Web 2 so that we expand the entire market for all. So those are just three of what I think are pretty interesting up and coming features that we have.
That's amazing. I feel like that was a lot of alpha. I mean, that ICANN application piece is really interesting. Especially if like a .Pudgy could also now become like a real web domain, right? So I know that we're coming up on time. So as a closing step, I would love for you, Sandy, to share any final thoughts or guidance for our community, either on digital identity or even for your Unstoppable Women groups. So anything that you're involved in, would love for you to share any, parting words of advice or ways that people can contribute to the ecosystems that you're building.
So I think I would close with three things. One, you're not too late. I showed you the exponential curve, like it's going exponential, baby, but you can still jump on it. So please don't think as you're listening to this, oh man, I missed it. You haven't missed it yet. And going to classes like this and other classes from University of Ethereum can help you get caught up and get with a good tribe that you know is going to help you and teach you. So I think my first message is it's not too late. Go ahead and get started now, which I'm sure they're doing because they're listening, but go ahead and get started now because it's really powerful. Number two, I would say is grab that digital identity. Future-proof what you're doing. I would grab it for your business. I would grab it for you personally. I also grabbed it for my kids, right? And I told you about the prince in Saudi who grabbed it for his 6-year-old baby. Go ahead and grab those for future-proofing what you're going to do. I showed you a vision of where we think it's going in the future. Probably going to pivot a few times, but by having that digital identity, you are protected as you go forward. And then the final one I will do is about, building, if you're a builder out there, I love builders, always think about building with diversity and inclusivity. It's not just a nice to have a diverse team. It really helps you to be more innovative. And there have been so many statistics and studies done, whether it was by McKinsey, who showed diverse teams were 82% more likely to come up with brand new ideas for new markets, or IDC or Deloitte, who found that diverse teams are more innovative, 5x more innovative. So, it's a nice to have, a diverse team, but it's really about ROI for your business. So also build with diversity and inclusion in mind. And I guess I'll close there, Tina. Don't wait, get your digital identity and make sure you're building with diversity and inclusion in mind.
Amazing. Well, as always, we will share a recap of this session via our newsletter, and we will also write a content piece on our blog, the UETH blog, on this topic of digital identity. So keep an eye out for the comms on the content pieces and for announcements on our next community spaces, as well as our next workshop. I know that Sandy will be hosting a community workshop on Friday. So we will also tag that here under this video. So would love to have everyone join us and bring all your questions about digital identity. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for sticking around for this session. And thank you so much, Sandy, for your time and for all of your knowledge.
Yep. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.